In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a two-dimensional grid that we can then use to create the three-dimensional puzzle cube parts. Start by clicking on the drop-down menu for the New button up at the top, and we'll choose a part. Notice that my browser over on the left-hand side has which part I'm working on, and it has this origin folder and the view master. Don't worry too much about these at this point. We're not going to mess with them. What is important is that I create a new 2D sketch. You pick which plane you'd like to put your grid on. For me, I'm going to put it on the XY plane. You'll notice that my view cube in the top right corner is looking directly at the front face and is no longer in an isometric view like this. I'll choose the rectangle. It's a 2-point rectangle that defaults, but if for some reason it's not on 2-point rectangle, choose the drop-down arrow and make sure you're on 2-point rectangle. I'll pick the origin, 0, 0. That's the yellow dot right in the middle. Click once, move my mouse, put in 0.75, and then hit enter. That means that my first dimension, in this case my width, is set up as 0.75 inches. I want the height to also be 0.75 inches, but I want to do it so that it's not something I have to type in. I want it to always be 0.75. So I'll click and place the dimension, and then click on the dimension one more time. I'll come up here to my original dimension, D0, and I'll make D1 equal to D0. Enter. And that's what's called parametric modeling. Now, no matter what I do to D0, it will always change D1. We'll come back to this concept when we actually extrude the puzzle cube parts. But to continue making the grid, I need to mirror this square. So under Pattern, I'll choose Mirror. And since it wants me to select geometry to mirror, I'll start above and to the left of this square. Click and drag to cover it up. If I click and drag to the left, it only selects things that I cross. If I click and drag to the right, it only selects the things that are completely inside of this area. Then I'll choose Mirror Line, and for my mirror line, I'll choose this vertical edge on the right. Once I've selected it, I'll apply, and it will mirror that square. I'll select both of those squares again, mirror, use the far right edge, and apply. I'll select all 4 of those, and I'll mirror using a horizontal line on the top. It doesn't matter which horizontal line you use, as long as you select one on the top. I'll do this one more time with all 8 of these squares, and I'll make a 4x4 grid. Just like this. I'll hit done, and then before I do anything else, I'm going to save this file. It's going to ask me, do I want to still be in sketch mode, or do I want to exit the sketch mode and continue saving? I absolutely do want to exit the sketch mode. It won't let me save unless I do so. So answering OK to this will exit me from the sketch mode and will start the save process for me. So now it's advisable that you put this in a place that makes sense. For me, I have a puzzle cube folder that I've created. And in that puzzle cube folder, I have my puzzle cube grid. So I can then put in puzzle cube grid right here in this new folder that I've created. And I can save this file as puzzle cube grid. Now I'm going to put it somewhere else so that it's a little easier for you to see. I'm going to put this on my desktop for now. And I'll save this as puzzle cube grid. Alright, so now I have this file that I can then manipulate. I can extrude, which is under my 3D model button. Profiles, each one of these squares is its own profile. And I want it to go away from me, not toward me. Let's say I click this one, and this one, and this one. They all come toward me, and they're coming toward me by 1 inch. And keep in mind, you don't want it to be 1 inch. You want it to be 0.75 inches. But if you type that in, it's not parametrically modeled like my grid was. And I want it to be like my grid. There's a reason I set that up. If I come in here and I tell it to make this the same as I had for the other sketches, or as I did on the sketch, so now this extrusion is equal to this original dimension, and I hit OK, it's going to bring it toward me by 0.75. Now, I want it to go away from me, but let's say that I accidentally hit OK here. Don't worry. In my browser, now instead of having Sketch 1, I have Extrusion 1. I can right-click on Extrusion 1 and edit that feature. I can also double-click on the icon. I can even get back to the sketch if I click on the little plus sign next to Extrusion 1 and expand the children underneath it. So Sketch 1 has been fully consumed by Extrusion 1. I don't want to edit the sketch. I want to edit the extrusion. So I'll open up the extrusion and I'll tell it, go away from me, not toward me. I could also tell it to be symmetrical, so it takes the distance and splits it in half, both forward and back. Or I can tell it to be asymmetrical, and it gives me the option of 2 different distances. I want it to go away by D0 or 0.75. You may notice that your window doesn't look like this. It looks more like a little bar with a little drop-down arrow. Or you have this little flyout window here that you can use. All of those things are still useful. If you want to see what I see, click that little drop-down arrow. If it doesn't bother you, use this little flyout menu on the left. Once you have it finished, you have part of your cube done, or part of your puzzle cube part done. But this sketch, it's grayed out. I can't use it again. I can't make more extrusions from it. I need to share it. Anytime I consume something, and I want something else to also be able to consume it, much like a sibling wanting to eat some of your food, you can share it with them. Right-click, share sketch, and now it's visible and it's up above Extrusion 1, so it can be consumed by other features once again. So extrude, choose this profile, and now I have a piece coming out. If I want that piece to be by 2 units, then I would simply tell it to multiply D0 times 2. I could say OK to this. And let's say that I also wanted to extrude this way by 2 units. And I also decided that I want to have this little cutout right here. One would think I just place a sketch on this face and extrude cut it back. Well, yes, or you could use the grid again. And I can extrude from this square, only this time I'll cut, and I'll only go D0 and toward me. And it will remove that little piece. So it's a relatively complex object that I've just created. And in the process of all of this, I even used the cut profile, or the cut command from this as well. So once you're done with your puzzle cube part, you want to right-click on the sketch, uncheck the visibility, come up here to where the color wheel is, and choose the button that says Default right next to it. As it drops down, you'll want to then type in the color that you want, and then save this file. But don't just click the Save Icon button. Come in to the Inventor button, choose Save As, and go to Save Copy As. Save this wherever it is that you're saving all of your puzzle cube parts. Save it right along beside your puzzle cube grid if you'd like, but give it a name that makes sense, like Yellow Part Solution 1. Once you hit Save, you've now saved it as a different part. But notice up here, it still says Puzzle Cube Grid. Don't let it convince you that you need to save over the top of it. So when you close this file, tell it no.